Very good afternoon, one and all present here. This is Amit Kumar Singh, and welcome to my class on statistics. This is our fifth session, and in this session, we'll continue discussion on statistical description of a data, where probably the data what you can see right now in front of you, that this form of data is called raw data. Okay, so when you see this form of data, so you can see this data. This data we call as a raw data. Raw data basically is the values whatever you're getting. If you make a representation or if you make a notation of that, that is basically your raw data. So here you can see the marks of students are given, where suppose if I have conducted an exam of statistics of 50 marks, so I got the marks of the students. So guys, so suppose if I conduct an exam of 50 marks, and suppose 10 students wrote this exam of 50 marks, I got the marks of these students. Okay, so the marks what I got, if I make a note of those marks, so this marks is basically called as raw data. Okay, now this raw data, what you can do, you can convert this raw data as a class interval and frequency. You can write the same data as a class interval, and then you can write a frequency for them. Okay, then you can write a frequency for the data. Frequency basically means how many times the data came. I can make a class interval 0 to 9. Okay, I can make a class interval called 10 to 19. Okay, then it can be 20 to 29, and then it can be 30 to 39. Okay, and then I can write this as 40 to 49, or I can write 40 to 50, because after 50 there's no such values. Okay, so what do you mean a class interval? I hope you understood, no? Class interval. So I make a groups classification. I told you statistics is all about collection of data, and once you collect the data, what is the next thing in statistics? Organization and classification of the data. So here I am talking about. So once you collected the data was here the marks of the student in exam of 50 marks. So once I get the data, either I can write the data as a raw data, or I can group them together in under different division forms. So here the division is like marks difference of 10, 10, 10. Okay, everyone, clear everyone. So frequency means 0 to 9. How many values are there between 0 to 9? So if you see 0 to 9, there's only one value called 8. If you see 0 to 9, there's only one value called 8. If you just write 1. So here 1 basically means between 0 to 9, one value is there. 10 to 19, how many values are there? 1, 2, two values are there between 10 to 19, three values are there. Then 20 to 29, how many values? One value, two value. Two values is there between 20 to 29, 30 to 39. You have two values. Okay, you have two values. And then 40 to 50, you have two values. Okay, if you do the total sum, this is called sum of frequency. And this sum of frequency should come equal to 10. So sum of frequency basically means the number of times the data is there. Frequency. Frequency means how many values came between that range. Just 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29. That is called as range. Clear, everyone? So here this 0, 10, 20, 19, 40. We'll call them, when you see this, we'll call them as lower class limit. We'll call them as a lower class limit. We'll call them as the lower class limit. Clear, everyone? 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, we'll call them a lower limit. And if you see this, this is called as upper limit. I hope you are understanding. These are called as upper limit. Clear, everyone? So I hope you understood what is lower limit, what is upper limit. Anyone, any doubt? Anyone, any doubt with lower limit and upper limit? Okay, so I hope you understood what is lower limit, what is upper limit. So whenever you write the class interval, whenever you write the class interval, here your class interval R of can be R of two type. When we express the data in the form class interval, it can be inclusive class interval. It can be inclusive class interval. It can be inclusive class interval, or it can be it can be exclusive class interval. So when you see the class interval for the data, it can be inclusive class interval or it can be exclusive class interval. The another name of inclusive class interval is discrete class interval. Another name of inclusive class interval is discrete class interval. Another name of exclusive class interval is continuous class interval. This is continuous class interval. Another name of inclusive class interval is discrete class interval. The another name of exclusive class interval is continuous class interval. Mainly there are two kinds of class intervals are there. Here you see the class interval, right? Here you see the class interval, right? So when you see the class interval, you have a lower limit, you have an upper limit. Okay. So based upon the class interval, you can group the class interval either as a inclusive class interval or exclusive class interval. Now the question arises, what is inclusive class interval? What is exclusive class interval? So if you see here, if there is a difference between this and this, if these two are not same, then it is discrete class interval. This is 19, this is 20. They are not same. It is exclusive class interval. Okay, so they are not same. So if they are not same, then it is inclusive class interval. If they are not same, then it is inclusive class interval or discrete class interval. So what is inclusive class interval or discrete class interval? Will follow inclusive class interval or discrete class interval when the upper limit of class n minus 1, when the upper limit of class n minus 1, okay, is not equal to the lower limit of n minus 1, the lower limit of lower limit of n plus 1 of class n plus 1. If the upper limit of class n minus 1, that is equal to the lower limit of class n, then it is a exclusive class interval or continuous class interval. While if they are not equal, then it is inclusive class interval. Here, if the upper limit of class n, if the upper limit of class n, if that is if that is equal to the lower limit, if that is equal to the lower limit of class n plus 1, if it is equal to the lower limit of class n plus 1, then it is exclusive class interval or continuous class interval. If they are not equal, then it is exclusive class interval. That is discrete class interval or inclusive class interval. Clear, everyone? So the class intervals, what you see, the class intervals, what you see, the class interval can be lower class interval, it can be upper class interval. If the upper limit of this class interval, if that is equal to the lower limit of next class interval, then such kind of distribution of the data is called exclusive class interval or continuous class interval. While if they are not equal, then it is called inclusive class interval or discrete class interval. Anyone any doubt? Anyone any doubt? So here the class interval, what you're seeing, this is basically called as inclusive class interval or the discrete class interval. Okay, so whenever we work on normal distribution curve, because normal distribution curve is a continuous distribution pattern, so in normal distribution calculation, we tend to avoid the use of inclusive class interval. So whenever we work on normal distribution calculation, everything will do on continuous data only. Will not do any calculation on discrete data or raw data. Clear, everyone? So here, if you see this class interval, this is basically this is basically if you see this is basically inclusive class interval. You have to convert the inclusive class interval into exclusive class interval. How will you convert the inclusive class interval into exclusive class interval? Okay, for that, very simple. Find the difference. The difference is one, right? Find the difference. Difference is one, right? So 1 divided by 2. So the 1 divided by 2 is 0.5. 0.5 you subtract from the lower class limit, zero point 0.5 you add to the upper class limit. It becomes a continuous data. 0 to 9.5, 9.5 to 19.5, then 19.5 to 29.5, okay, then 29.5 to 39.5, then 39.5 to 49.5, or I can write 50. And then the frequency will be 1, 3, 2, 2, 3. This way, when you represent the data, it is called continuous class interval. Anyone, any doubt, please ask me. You can speak if you want. So I was mainly talking about the data here, the data which we can express as a raw data, or we can group the different data together and ungroup many data which were before together, but now maybe in grouping part they will get separated. So now when it comes to collection of data, after that we need to organize and classify the data. I can organize the data on the basis of different class intervals. Okay, although there's a different mathematical formulas are there to decide the number of class intervals, but here we'll not put that much effort here. We'll make sure that whenever we draw the class interval, it should being done with proper logical sense. So here, suppose 10 students were there and they have written the marks, they have written the exam of mathematics, okay, and they got the marks out of 50. So their marks are written in the form of class interval. Okay, it can be here, it can be on different groups. You can see different groups here. I just separated them like class intervals like 0 to 9, 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 50. So this class interval I separated them. I wrote down the frequency. Class interval is here is the discrete class interval. As you can see, there's a difference between the upper limit of n class, and then if you compare that with the lower limit of n plus 1 class, because they are not same, is this is a discrete class interval. So whenever we perform any statistical calculation based on normal distribution, because normal distribution is standard deviation based continuous frequency calculation mechanism. So here in the case of normal distribution, you need to make sure that your data, when it represented, it should be continuous data. So you need to convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval. So how will you convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval? To convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval, what you will do, you will find the difference between the upper limit of one class and then the lower limit of the next class. Okay, d by 2, that half of that you will subtract that to the lower limit of the class, and you add that d by 2 the upper limit of the class. And that way, when you do, you'll convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval. So once you have converted the discrete class interval into continuous class interval, and then you can make a note of the frequency. Okay, if you draw the diagram for this, okay, if you draw the diagram for this distribution, you'll get something like this. Okay, you'll get something like this form of distribution. This is what we call as histogram. Everyone, anyone, any doubt? This representation will called as histogram. Okay, so if I take the midpoint of this histogram, if I take the midpoint of this histogram, that is called x, or that is also called as class mark. If I take the midpoint, that that is called class mark, or that is also called X. This is upper class boundary plus lower class boundary divided by 2. Okay, that is called class mark X. That is called class mark. That if I find here, so this would be what? This would be 4.75. Then this would be what? 19.5. 19 plus 120, 29. 29 means 14.5. This is 24.5, 34.5, 44.5. If I find the midpoint of this class interval, okay, and then if I plot the graph of these midpoints, okay, of different class interval, I simply find the midpoints. And if I just try to connect the line diagram, connecting the midpoints, okay, then this kind of representation, then this kind of representation is called as frequency polygon. Are you getting it? So I hope you have understood what is histogram, what is frequency polygon. You have understood what is a lower class limit, what is the upper class limit. When you see the class interval, the lower value of the class interval is called lower class limit. The upper value is called upper class limit. If the upper class limit of the n class is equal to the lower class limit of n plus one class, then it is continuous class interval or exclusive class interval. If they are not same, then it is inclusive class interval or discrete class interval. So whenever we work on any form of statistical calculation, we need to make sure that our data is present in continuous class interval. So we need to convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval. How will we convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval? We need to subtract the difference d by 2 from the lower class limit, and we have to add d by 2 to the upper class limit. So the value what we get is are called class boundary, lower class boundary and upper class boundary. Are you getting it? So now we can follow the formula to convert the discrete class interval into continuous class interval. Okay, and then the values what you see, we'll call them as either class limit, or we can call more specifically as a class boundary. So I hope you understood this, and the average and the midpoint of the upper class limit and the lower class limit is called class mark. Clear, everyone? What is a frequency density? There's another term called frequency density. So frequency density here basically means the frequency of the class interval, frequency of the class interval divided by the class width. When you don't have continuous class interval, when you have discrete class interval, now to determine the mode and all, we'll follow frequency density. But anyway, that is not in your course, that is there in Cambridge board course and all. So based on frequency density, how you can find the mode of the data. Clear? Anyone have any doubt? Please ask me questions. Have you understood the term class mark? Class mark basically means upper class boundary plus lower class boundary divided by 2. Frequency density basically means frequency of the given class interval, given frequency of the given class interval divided by the width of the class interval. That will give you frequency density. Anyone, any question, any doubt? Any doubt, anyone? Okay, so I'm assuming that you don't have any doubt. So suppose if your class intervals are 10 to 20, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, then 40 to 50, then 50 to 60. Okay, and your frequencies are 15, 17, 8, 23, 19. Suppose these are your frequencies. Suppose this is the class interval and this is your frequency. Okay. So suppose this is your class interval, this is your frequency. If I find the total sum of frequency, then it will be 12, 20, 23, 23, 32, 3 carry, 3, 4, 5, 5, 7, 8, 82. The sum of frequency is 82. Simply I just made one question. Okay, so suppose this is your class interval, this is your frequency. Okay, so what you can do, guys, the same thing you can write as the less than class interval. The same data you can write as less than class interval, and you can write this as less than cumulative frequency. We call this as a cumulative frequency. So when you write less than, we'll write less than 20, then less than 30, then less than 40, then less than 50, then less than 60. So whenever you use the term less than, you always use upper limit. Okay, and then if you see the frequency, you write 15, 15 plus 17, 32, 32 plus 8, 40. Then 40 plus 23, 63, 40 plus 19, 40 plus 9, 40 plus 23, 63, 63 plus 19, 82. This is called less than class interval and less than cumulative frequency. If you plot the graph of this, if you plot the graph of this, you will get a graph like this. Okay, you will get a graph like this. This is called less than OG. You plot the graph of less than cumulative frequency. The graph what you get is called less than OG. Clear, everyone? Now, similarly, the same data I can write as more than class interval. Similarly, the same data I can write as more than class interval with more than cumulative frequency. More than class interval with more than cumulative frequency. So if you write more than class interval with more than frequency, cumulative frequency, you will use the term more than. Using the term more than, you use a lower limit, more than 10, more than 20, more than 30, more than 40, more than 50. Cumulative frequency, start from down, 19. So 19 plus 23, 42. 42 plus 5, 8. 42 plus 8, that is 50. 50 plus 17, 67. 67 plus 15, 82. So this way you can write the more than class interval with more than cumulative frequency. The graph what you get from them, that is called as more than OG. With less than cumulative frequency, the graph what you get, that is called more less than OG. With more than cumulative frequency, if you plot the graph, that will call as more than OG. Any doubt, anyone? So with more than class interval and more than cumulative frequency, you plot the graph, you'll get more than OG. Okay, the point where less than OG and more than OG coincide. If you take the point of the intersection, that will give you the value of median. So you can determine median graphically with less than OG and more than OG, the point of the intersection. This is a graph of less than OG. This is the graph of intersection of more than OG. Less than OG and more than OG we get by using cumulative frequency. So when I use less than class interval, less than cumulative frequency, the curve what I get is the less than OG curve. If I take more than class interval with more than cumulative frequency, so the curve what I get is more than OG curve. So the point where both curve intersect, okay, the point where both of the curve intersect, that will give you the value of the median. Here everyone. So you can see this example of histogram. So in this question, you can see the example of histogram. The height values of some students are given to you. Okay, and then number of students are given to you. Okay, so then what we can do, we can plot this graphically. So this way we can plot them graphically. This is what is called a histogram. Okay, so you can use histogram to find the mode. How will you find the mode? So normally the formula of finding the mode, if you have class interval and frequency, is L plus H F1 minus F naught divided by 2 F1 minus F naught minus F2. This is the formula of mode if you want to find the value of mode. Okay, so we'll take what we'll do here. We'll see the class interval and frequency. We'll see the class interval and frequency to find the mode. Okay, we'll see the class interval and frequency to find the mode. If you have what is mode, I hope you've heard of something called mode. Mode basically means the representation which talks about maximum times value repeat. Okay, so the maximum times the value repeat, that is called mode. So the value which repeats the maximum, here I write F1, one before that F naught, one below that F2. Any doubt, anyone? So this mode, graphically how to find this. Sorry, mathematically this is the formula. Graphically you can find mode very easily. You don't have to do anything. Simply take the histogram which is having the maximum frequency. Join this diagonals. The point where these two diagonal meet. This point will give you the mode. So in government exams and all, this question comes in TCS also. This question comes. Yeah. So I'll tell again. So don't mind if I show you the TCS question paper. Okay, I'll show you the TCS question paper. 1 minute. Huh? Otherwise, I'll forget then. Where is TCS question? Yeah, TCS official question. This time TCS coming in December. TCS is conducting the exam in December. This is TCS question paper. Okay, this I just taken a screenshot from the official websites of TCS. Below 10, below 20, all that. Okay, so these all the TCS official question paper. And if you see this question paper, there are so many questions are there of mean, median, mode, and this paper anyone can write. You can also write. So engineers can write. So based upon the score what you get from this paper, your profile will be sent to different companies. Okay, and if they like your profile, they'll call you for the interview. So the reason of showing you this question paper is that you can see this question number one is completely of statistics. Okay, earlier no company used to ask questions of statistics. Nowadays you can see all companies are asking questions of statistics. This is completely statistics. You can see median and all. Okay, you can see it's complete statistics question. Again, mean, median, mode you have to find. Okay, statistics. This standard deviation statistics. Okay, so you can see around 15 to 20% question in TCS came from statistics only. The reason of showing you this is that when I do TCS specific training in different engineering colleges, normally next month I will be busy then doing the TCS specific training. So there I teach the same thing to the engineering people. What is median mode, standard deviation, quartile deviation, all that, and you can see that how important is this topics altogether. So nowadays you cannot complain that you are sitting in this part of India, you did not get job or whatever. Only in Bangalore, only you can get a job, whatever the scenario. So you can apply for TCS ION exam or MCAT exam. A lot of exams are there. Yeah, I hope I talked about MCAT. I hope I have talked about TCS, ION. You can write up these exams. Okay, based upon your score will be sent to different companies. They'll call you for the interview. Only then the interview round will happen. HR round will happen because aptitude round already you have written. That would be online exam. So think about these things. Now coming back, someone asked me about what is F1, F2, F naught. So you see the class interval and frequency. The frequency which repeated the maximum is called F1. One before that is called F naught. One after that is called F2. Okay, so mode is all about the value which repeat the maximum number of times. That is what we try to determine mode. You're getting me right. So mode you can determine graphically through histogram. Okay, so mode, if you have to determine mode graphically, we'll use histogram. We'll take that rectangle which is having a maximum peak, and we'll draw the diagonal of the rectangle from one end to the other end, and the point where the both the diagonal meet, that point on the x-axis is your mode. Clear, everyone? We'll do this formula and non-numerical part. I will do numerical and all. Don't worry about numerical. Those formulas and all, we'll spend a lot of time doing them. But for the time being, you should understand. Clear, everyone? Anyone, any question? If you want to speak, you can speak. So suppose this is your question where the data is given to me in the form of more than class interval with more than cumulative frequency. Okay, and I want to do, I want to convert this data into less than class interval with less than cumulative frequency. Before I want to convert this data into less than class interval with less than cumulative frequency, I need to make sure that my data here should be in continuous distribution pattern. That you don't have to do because normally if it's given as a less than or more than right cumulative frequency data, you have to understand it will be continuous only. Okay. And what next thing what you have to remember guys that whenever you see more than class interval data, the values what you see, those values will be your lower limit. Okay. I hope you are getting this. This value would be your lower limit. This value is what you see. This value would be your lower limit 150, 170, 190, then 210, 230, 250. Whenever you see less than cumulative frequency with less than class interval data, the numerical value attached to that is always the upper limit. Here the numerical value attached to that is always the lower limit. Okay, everyone. Press. So, guys, if you see this more than class interval with a more than cumulative frequency data, so the numerical value attached in this more than class interval data, that this numerical value is always the lower limit. If you have less than class interval with less than cumulative frequency data, then the numerical value attached there is always the upper limit. So here you can understand these are lower limit. And if you see the difference, that the difference called class width, the difference is 2020. This difference is the class width. The difference is the class width. You can easily make it, everyone. I hope you are getting it right. So then what I can do, I can write the frequencies. So how will I write down the frequency? How to convert cumulative frequency to normal frequency? Write down the smallest value, that is start from down 175, then 315 minus 175. You can do that. This is 0, then this is 4, then this is 2, 140 if I'm not wrong. This is 450 minus 315. So this would be 35 and this would be 135. Clear, everyone? And then this is 450, right? Then this is 600 minus 450. This is 150. Okay. Then this is 714 minus 600 means 114. Then 850 minus 714. So this would be 6, 4 minus 1, 3, and this would be 136. So these are your normal frequency. The total sum, if you do, you should get 850. Clear, everyone? Check that. The total sum, what you should do, you should get 850. So once you have normal class interval with the normal frequency, now I can write down the same data as less than class interval, and then I can write down the same data as less than class interval with less than cumulative frequency. When I write less than, so I'll write less than, in less than when you write, you use upper limit, less than 170, and less than 190, and less than 210, then less than 230, then less than 250, then less than 270. Cumulative frequency, we start with first 136. 136 plus 14, 6 plus 4, 10, 1 carry, 3, 1, 1 plus 1, 5, 250. 250 plus 150 is 400. 400 plus 135 is 535. 535 plus 140 is 675. 675 plus 175. 5 plus 5, 10, 14, 15, 1 carry, 850. So now I converted the normal class interval with normal frequency with less than class interval with less than cumulative frequency. Clear? Anyone, any doubt? Guys, ask me if anyone have any doubt. Do this question, everyone. Everyone. Everyone, do this question. Question number 5. Once you're done with that question, question number 5th. Once you're done, question number 5th. Now do 6th and 7th, everyone. Everyone, now do question number 8. So these questions, question number 5, 6, 7, and 8, you can easily do if you have developed the understanding about what is cumulative frequency, what is normal frequency. Okay, now here, like if you see this data, like here, if this is your normal class interval with normal frequency, you can see that this class interval is a continuous class interval. You can see this. This is, if you see this class interval, it is a continuous class interval. It is continuous class interval. If you see this is continuous class interval, how you get to know? You see 45, which is the same. This is a continuous class interval. Okay, you can understand this. So whenever we do any calculation of mean, median, mode, anything we'll do on continuous class interval, you can see this is continuous class interval. The frequencies are given to you. Okay, suppose this is your question. Okay, this is your question. This is your normal class interval with normal frequency. Suppose this is your question. Okay, this is given to you. This is the height, and this is a number of students. This is given to you. What you can do, guys, you can find less than cumulative frequency. How will you find a less than cumulative frequency? 4 plus 10, 14, 14 plus 12, 26, 26 plus 20, 46, 46 plus 16, 62, 62 plus 6, 68, 68 plus 3, 71. Are you getting this? Now, if I have to write the same data, if I have to write more than cumulative frequency, how will I write more than cumulative frequency? I'll start with down 3, then 3 plus 6, 9, then 9 plus 16, 25, 25 plus 20, 45, 45 plus 12, 57, 57 plus 10, 67, 67 plus 4, 71. Clear, everyone? I hope you're getting it. So whenever we write less than cumulative frequency and we write less than class interval, for less than class interval, we use upper limit. And whenever we write more than class interval, we use lower limit. Anyone, any doubt? Eighth question you want to see again? Eighth question. Yeah, this is the eighth one. So you know that here the normal class interval with normal frequency and all, whenever it is given, normal class interval with normal frequency, whenever it is given. Okay, so what you can do, you can convert that normal class interval with normal frequency with less than class interval with less than cumulative frequency. And then if you plot the representation for this, that representation is called ogive. Let me show you the ogive diagram. So this is the less than ogive. This is less than ogive. Okay, and if you take more than class interval with more than cumulative frequency, this is more than ogive. and the point where your less than and more than ogive intersect, okay, that point on x-axis, that point on the x-axis will give you what? It will give you median. So median you can determine graphically by the point of intersection of less than ogive and more than ogive. Clear, everyone? Anyone, any doubt? Okay. So when it comes to frequency polygon, what is frequency polygon? What is frequency polygon? What is frequency polygon? So like for the frequency polygon, what we do, we take the help of something called frequency curve. Okay, frequency curve are of different types. It is J-shaped curve, it is L-shaped curve, it is U-shaped curve, it is bell-shaped curve. Different types of frequency curve is there. So one type of frequency curve is called frequency polygon, where we'll consider the midpoints of the class limits what we have. So your lower class limit, upper class limit, and on that midpoint we'll try to plot the value of the frequency, and the representation, the line diagram what we get, we call that as a frequency polygon. Okay, everyone. So you can see this question where this data is given is a continuous class interval, and you can see the value of frequency here. Okay, so here what I did, I just took the midpoint of them, 140 to 145. The midpoint is 142.5. Okay, 145 to 150. The midpoint is 157.5. So I took the midpoint of them. Okay, and the midpoint of the histogram, I try to join them together, and what I got, I call that as a frequency polygon. Here, imagine if I take the midpoints, and then if I draw a curve, then it would be called as frequency polygon. Then this is called as frequency polygon. So this curve, what you get, this is called as frequency polygon. Clear, everyone? Any doubt, anyone? Any question? So with this, we have finished the first theory part of the chapter, where I was talking about the statistical description of the data. I was talking about the statistical description of the data. So whenever I talk about statistical description of the data, how I will describe the data statistically, I can describe the data by using a theoretical distribution, where I can talk about a data to follow normal distribution or Poisson distribution or binomial distribution, or I can statistically try to describe a data. Statistically, if I'm trying to describe that, I need to understand what data is all about. A data can be either, it can be either qualitative data, or your data can be either quantitative data. So whenever you say what is qualitative data is also called as ordinal data. Qualitative data is also called as ordinal data, and quantitative data is also called as cardinal data. Okay, so statistical description of data, whenever we are talking about here, we are describing data. Data can be qualitative data, it can be quantitative data. In order to work on statistics, your data should be numerically expressed in the form of numbers. You need lot of data together. You cannot work on single data. So we all together we have studied about how we can work on the collection of the data, where we talked about we can collect the data through primary data, or we follow secondary data. In primary data, we follow direct observation method, or we follow interview method, or we follow or we follow mailed questionnaires method, interview method, we followed direct interview, indirect interview, telephonic interview. So whatever we work on, ultimately we try to gather data. Data can be either, it can be qualitative data, it can be either quantitative data. Ultimately, in order to work on statistics, you need to convert your qualitative data into quantitative data. The features of quantitative data is called as variable, okay, which can describe the data, while the features of qualitative data is called as attributes. Okay, so there's a chapter in statistics called Theory of Attributes, which talks about qualitative data. So here in the statistics, we need to convert the data into quantitative form. So different techniques are there how you can convert the qualitative data into quantitative form, and ultimately then only you can perform any form of analysis. Statistics is all about research. So whenever we try to perform research, every research have an objective, and based upon that objective, we try to discuss how we can work on the our process, that statistical process. That statistical process can help us to describe statistics under two part. We can actually put statistics under two part. One part we'll call as descriptive statistics, and the other part we'll call as inferential statistics. So in the case of descriptive statistics, when we say descriptive statistics, in case of descriptive statistics, we work on population. In case of descriptive statistics, we work on population, while in case of inferential statistics, we'll work on sample. So population and sample are the two terminologies which you need to be good with, and you'll talk about, you'll study about them a lot. When we say population, population can be of two types. It can be finite population or it can be infinite population. When you study population, it can be finite population, or it can be infinite population. Okay, read about them. What is infinite population? What is finite population? So population is altogether the sum total of all the elements on which you want to do research. That is called population. So the sum total of all the elements on which you want to perform your statistical analysis, that we called as population. And whenever we do work on statistics, uh, we work on population. If you work on population, like for example, census enumeration, or you can work on sample. So whenever you're working on a sample, you follow sampling technique, try to gather the sample. Okay, okay. And when you work on sampling techniques and you try to gather the sample, and then if you prefer to follow statistical analysis, then it is called as inferential statistics. So altogether, we can describe statistics as an inferential or as a descriptive. So the process of working on statistics is altogether to perform research. The first step to do statistical research is to collect the data. Once we collect the data, either the primary data or secondary data, we talk about organization and the classification of the data, that grouping, classification of grouping. We can do in different ways. We can follow geographical classification, chronological classification, quantitative classification, or qualitative classification. The other name of quantitative classification is cardinal classification. The other name of qualitative classification is ordinal classification. The other name of geographical classification is spatial, spatial, and the other name of chronological or temporal classification. So on the basis of time period, if you try to divide the data into different groups, okay, so that then it is called chronological on the basis of numerical values like height, weight. Then it is quantitative on the basis of attributes like nationality, cities, or any other parameters which are what you say qualitative in nature. It is qualitative classification. You are getting it right. On the basis geographically, if you try to divide the data, that's a geographical classification. Once you divided the data, you try to analyze the data. We follow univariate data analysis, where we follow bivariate, multivariate data analysis. Univariate data analysis include measure of central tendency, measure of dispersion. Bivariate data analysis include correlation, regression, multivariate data analysis. It's all about performing macroeconomic analysis on the data. Ultimately, the analysis part, what we have done, we need to tell to the rest of the world what analysis we have done. So for that, we need to present the data. If we are trying to present the data, then we follow different techniques of presentation: textual presentation, tabular presentation, diagrammatic presentation, or graphical presentation. Textual presentation is all about writing stories and making others to understand, while tabular presentation is all about presenting the data in the form of tables. Okay. Then the third thing is diagrammatic presentation. We use line diagram, bar diagram, pie chart. Okay, line diagram can be simple line diagram, multiple line diagram, multiple axis line diagram, logarithmic line diagram. Bar diagram can be simple bar diagram, subdivided bar diagram, percentage bar diagram. Okay, then pie chart, you know about pie chart. Okay, circular form of representing the data. Then graphical presentation data, it can be frequency polygon, frequency curve, histogram, and what? Frequency curve, frequency polygon, histogram, and ogive. Ogive are of two types: less than ogive and more than ogive. Okay, so ogive concept comes whenever we talk about cumulative frequency. Okay, so the point where less than and more than ogive intersect, then that point is called median. We can find mode graphically by working on histogram. Clear? Anyone, any doubt? Please ask questions. So guys, I hope you have understood what all we have done in this class. So thank you for your kind presence. I'll see you for the next class. Take care. Bye everyone. God
Thank you, sir.